right, guys, so we're gonna do the step-by-step on this. We're gonna tell you guys every single nut and bolt, everything that you have to remove to actually install a full coilover system on the GR Corolla. We're also gonna just kind of touch base on actually if you did have to do just a spring replacement, so if you're just gonna go with lowering springs, I think iBox actually coming up with a set pretty soon, as well as some other manufacturers. But let's get into it. We're gonna go through all this stuff, how to take the whole full coilover off in the front, as well as the rear, and the whole inner part of the front, the wiper cowl area, to get to the top perch, as I mentioned in one of our previous videos on how to do this. All right, guys, so I want to mention this was in the other videos, but this is really important. If you're putting any aftermarket wheels on this car, this is a shank style lug nut. We're going to be putting these aftermarket raised lug nuts on. This is going to be pulled off with a 21 millimeter, and the aftermarket one is a 17. It's a lot nicer, like cleaner, but the seat is actually completely different. I already mentioned this, but as you guys are ordering wheels and tires, this is something you have to purchase at the time of. So you can start this suspension install either from the bottom or the top, but we're gonna start at the top. We're gonna remove all this cowl here for you and show you guys how you have to get to the top perch mounts, and we'll go from there. So we gotta get this whole cowl off so we can get to the actual strut here, the top mount. There's 3 bolts underneath here. What we need to do is we need to remove this. So we just gotta come in here with a little pick tool. You're not gonna leave any marks or anything. You just wanna lift this little cap up. It just kind of sets on place. So you wanna set these aside. You don't wanna lose these. This is gonna be a 14 mil, and you're just gonna wanna break these loose and take these wipers off. I should probably get the ratchet on so it looks like I actually break it. I'm just getting on that clip, pull that off. So you're gonna wanna remove both wiper blades, set these aside. We use Ziploc bags or whatever you want to do, but just set these aside so you can't lose them. So one of the things to get this off, you just got to get this thing straight and pull it up. And you can see there's like actually little tiny teeth in there, and you can just note the position. We got dirt marks on ours, so when we put this back in place, we're gonna just drop this in like this, kind of pull that weight off that, and drop it in. So get this one off. And same with, I'm too short for this one. Okay. For the next stuff, get these off to the side. Don't want to lose these. So we got these clips here. There's 4 clips across the front. You want to remove those. All you need to do is get in there and lift this up. I'll give you guys a close-up on that. Let's go to that one over there. So all you want to do is you want to get in here and get underneath it and pick it up. It'll actually be a little bit pressurized, so you just pull that out. That's how it works. These pieces off, we can actually remove this. Is there a pull? Is there a clip? So there's just a slight pull forward, and then this thing will pop right off, and you can remove this and set this off to the side. The reason we had to take that cowl off is we actually need to take this metal bracket off too to do the full coilover install, adjust your camber plates and things like that. This is pretty easy to take off. Don't let it don't let it scare you guys. I'm gonna go through every step by step and show you guys how and why and how we did it, so it's not that difficult. Some guys are actually cutting this apart. They're making a cut up in here and cutting all these pop rivets out and allowing that so you can actually get into the top hat here of the aftermarket coilover so you can adjust your camber. Let's get this off. Let's go step by step. Let's start with this wiring loom. So what we have to do is we have to get in here and pull these out. So you can use a panel popper and lift this up and it'll pull it out. Sometimes these are going to get a little damaged when you do it, but it's not that big of a deal. So we're going to get that one, and then we're going to get this one right here. Okay, and then what you need to do, this is your window defrost, so you need to unplug this. And this is just a simple Toyota plug. Just push on this side, pull it apart, and then just make sure you're not going to get this caught up on anything while we remove this whole unit. I'm just going to set this over here. And here we have the same thing. We have some 10 millimeters here, and some on the other side. And then we have some 14s here. So since I already have the 14, I'm going to break these loose. And with the 10, there's 2 on this side, 2 on the other side, and then there's 1, 2, 3, and there's another one, I think, behind the wiper motor there. So you need to remove all those 10 millimeters, and that'll allow this whole thing to get up. We'll get into the wiper motor in just a second, but let me finish breaking these loose. Okay. I'm gonna get this wiper out. So this is also a 10. You're just gonna pull this off here. And then you got another 10 that's hidden behind this little rubber here. You're gonna get that off. And if you drop anything, don't worry, because it's gonna just fall into this panel here. So it's not that big of a deal. So this one's got a nice fat washer on it, so take a note of that. And this one, the same thing. So you're just gonna lift these both up, and there's a little rubber grommet. It's the same as like the engine bay grommet, so you just need to pull that thing out. I'm pulling it frontwards first, and then I can lift this thing out. So it's that piece right there that was into this rubber grommet here. And then I need to actually do an unplug here. So let's see what this is. I can just depress it right here and pull that out. And then this we can just set aside. So when I pulled this off, these clips on the new cars, they're one-way clips. They're really difficult to pull off. So this clip actually broke on us automatically. So we're gonna have this part number and part listed on our website. It's obviously just a Toyota part, but it'll be fine if you need to put it back together. It'll just pop in place and stay there. It's not like anything super important, but just to let you guys know, just be careful with that. And let's get back to it. So these are the last 5 pieces before we have to remove and slide this piece off to the side. So if you are going to be cutting this, you do need to remove it completely, and you're going to need to deal with some more of this wire issues here, and you need to break these 2 pieces loose. You just get underneath them, pop them out, but warning, they will break if you do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove these 10 mils, the last ones here. What you want to do, you want to be really careful. You don't want to hit the windshield here. So just got to get these 5 out. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll show you how this slides away. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to pull these 14s. I don't think I finished pulling them off before. You actually only need to pull these 2 of the inner ones. And this outbound one I'll show you. There's a washer underneath here. So I just need to pull those off. We need to be careful not to drop them away. And then we need to set these aside. And then we need to lift this up now that all the bolts are there, and this whole thing will just come out of place. What we do is we need to pull this and set this aside like this. So we're just gonna set this here. It's not touching the car. We put this piece in here to protect it and everything. But now let's go in and see. So now you have access to this. This is the coilover itself that we're gonna loosen the rest of these bolts. So we're gonna get that last 14 off. All right, so now that you have that piece out of the way, we already removed these 2 nuts. When we actually pull that piece, we need to pull these 2 washers off. Okay, we need to set those aside, and we need to get this guy loose now. And so I don't want to take this all the way off. I actually want to just thread it to the very end. And basically, what I want to do that for is I'm just going to come back up to the top and finish this once we loosen everything up from the bottom. If you took this all the way off, your suspension actually could fall all the way out. Some people might want to do the install that way, but we were going to prefer to leave this here, and then we'll come back up and we'll loosen this up and then we'll put the new suspension back in place. Now that we're underneath, you can actually see what I'm talking about. Look, see, the suspension is just loose. Okay, so there's a cap actually on this, so you need to get your pick tool and you need to remove this plastic cap. And that comes off so you can access this. This is gonna be a 6mm hex head and a 17 here. There's 2 ways you can actually do this. The proper way is to put the Allen key in here and then actually break this loose with the 17. There's a special tool for it, but we can actually just use air tools on this. So we're just gonna pull this off real quick for you guys. So the proper way to do this is to hold the center piece in place. Usually on older cars it becomes an issue, but this is how you would break it. There's also a socket set for this as well. But once I got that loose, I can actually come in here and just unspin this bolt. So this again is a 17 and a 6mm here. And you can see this is gonna come out. And this is the sway bar end link, and this will just need to come in and drop out. So we got actually 4 things we need to do on here. We need to take these 2 22mm off. You wanna take them off from this side, spin it this way. This same thing will come out this way. And then you got this 14mm here. This is for the brake line. And you have this ABS sensor here that you need to put a pick tool underneath here, and I'll show you exactly how that works. But let's get these broken loose. All right, so we broke these loose manually. I'm gonna get this 14 off real quick, and then we're gonna come in with a gun, and we're gonna break the other one loose. So get this one off. This bolt will come all the way out. And again, we're gonna set that to the side. See how that just kind of comes out this way? You want to make sure that nothing's going to break or damage this or pull on this line. Okay, so let's set the 14 aside and let's get these 22s off. Okay, there we go. To get this off, there's actually like a little lever on the bottom side. I'm going to use a flathead screwdriver, and I'm just going to come underneath here and I'm going to pull this out, and that'll allow me to open this up, as you can see, and I can pull this line out so it's not going to get damaged. And I can show you guys how to get this clip out once we get these bolts out. So the 22 millimeters are out. So to get these things out, you can see they actually move around if you want to move the spindle. So you just want to actually push these out. In an older car, they might get a little bit bound up more. So you just want to use like a hammer or something to pop these out. So we're going to pop this out, and then we're actually going to remove the whole coilover in just a second here. Don't forget to take this out. This is that 17. I left this just at the end. So we're going to just finish this. Take that, pop that through, and get this out of the way right here. For us, we got to lower this back down just to get to that bolt, and then we can remove this whole suspension here. You see how nothing's actually bound up yet? So the one thing I didn't do earlier is I didn't pull this actual bracket off. Even though I pulled that 14 out, you need to lift this bracket up and then swing it off to the side. And that'll have no tension on these two lines, and this is just hanging freely in place, as you guys can see. So let's get this down a little bit. Let's get that bolt out. What I'm doing, I'm just getting this 14. I can do it with my hand here. And once I get this pulled out, there's the bolt. Just pull this guy out. So as we got this out, now we can actually get this out the proper way. And we just need to depress that in on both sides. And then this will come out. All I did was I got the screwdriver in there and I pushed on this side and this side to pull this out. So we're gonna put this and install this back into the coil, the aftermarket coilover. So the couple key points about this, it's a 24-way adjuster. So to do this, this is how this is actually gonna sit in the car. We're actually gonna pull this in. So this is pulling the camber, the top of the coilover in. We're just gonna go 2 notches, 2 white lines in, and we're gonna leave it there, and we're gonna adjust the rest at the bottom. So let's just tighten it up there. So I gotta take these bolts out, get this all ready to get up and installed in there. And when I put this in, I'm only gonna put the one piece in, or the one nut. I'm gonna put it on this one, is the one I'm gonna hang this in place with. And then we're gonna undo everything. We'll just zip through this and get this installed for you guys real quick. So here's the 2 coilovers side by side. So this thing is gonna actually help you with wheel clearance issues. But what you wanna do is you wanna set this up, you wanna kinda line these up, and you wanna see where this top plate's gonna be compared to that one. So we've kind of like just adjusted this a little bit, and we'll go through the details a little bit more and fine tune it once we get it in the car. But I just kinda wanted to show you side by side how these looked. So now that I got this in place, I got that top bolt in, I can actually go through and push this back up and get the 22 millimeters in. I can set this back in place, and I can put this back in, the bracket here, as well as the ABS sensor. So when you do this, you just want to put the bolts back in the same exact way. You just got to shimmy it around a little bit to get the 22s back in. And so that's the first thing you want to do, is you want to get all that weight back off the hub, and then you can do it with the ABS and the brake line. So remember when we pulled this off, we just want to put this back in. There's a spot right here in the coilover. We're just going to put this right through here. And that clips right in, and that's where your line's going to go back in place right there. And then this piece is going to come in back in place here. So the one last thing you want to do is you want to get your sway bar in link in, and then you want to get the 17 back on, and then you want to just get this nice and tight. This is a good and tight rule right here. Just kind of crank it down so it's good and tight. All right guys, so now that the front is all complete and bolted up, you're just gonna do a repeat of the other side. Sometimes it actually is better when you do both sides at the same time, because of the sway bar end link, you can actually adjust the sway bar to fit in the hole for both sides. So if you're having a difficult time with that, that's gonna be my suggestion on that. So let's go over to the back. There's gonna be 2 tools we're gonna use. We're gonna use mostly a 17 as well as a 22 for the lower shock bolt. I'm gonna do it a tricky way, the easy way. I'll show you guys how to do it the better way though. All right guys, so this is a divorce suspension. I talked about it in the video number 2, and your spring is outboard of the shock itself. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna actually get this bolt out. Come on in here. This right here is the lower shock. This is the 22 millimeter. The proper way to do it is to remove this whole piece here. We have some tools here that we'll be able to get in here and just get this thing loose. And then you want to get the top two there, way up there. Those are 17s. You want to pull those two out. And then you got to pull this 17 out here to drop this lower control arm. When doing this, this is pressurized. So you're going to want to put a jack underneath this as well. You don't want to jack the car up, but you need to just put just a little pre-tension on this, and that's it. So let's go through it real quick. I've already broken this loose. So we just used this and we got this the ratchet up in there and broke it off with the pry bar, or not a pry bar, but a breaker bar. So this is not having any tension on it yet, but I just need to get this out. And again, like I said, see, this is kind of in the way. I'm going to suggest to all you guys to take that out. Okay, get those slide out. Actually remove the top two bolts on the strut here. These are 17s. So guys, what I said, we need to put a little bit of tension on this, and we need to get this bolt out for the spring. We're just going to pull this out. I got my hand on the back sides for the nut. There's no washer. I'm just going to pull this out. See how that dropped in? You can do a couple things. If you have a tool, this will actually spin out, or you can just pull this thing out when you guys are done. Okay, now that's actually free, so if I pull the jack down, that's going to allow me to pull my spring out. So by pulling the jack down, it's going to allow you to get your spring out. You just want to pull it and lift it out. You want to take note where your bushing was on top here, and all that does is sit on that actual perch right there. So again, I'll show you. This just goes here, and on the bottom there's actually a rubber insert as well. I'll show you guys. Let me pull that out. So that's how it comes out. And see on the bottom, this is what it was as well, just like that. We're going to reuse this one. We're not going to reuse the top one. So guys, here's the new setup. This is how it is for divorce setups. So you can actually adjust the spring height here by adjusting the collars, everything here, by going up or down. And you have a, looks like a 5 mil here to do the adjustments. So let's just drop this in place. And this one just pops into this cup right in here. And it's going to be much easier to put back in because of the extra shortness of the spring now.
That bolt one is
So here is the rear shock, and you can actually adjust this as well, but this is where the rebound adjustment is. But we have to reuse the top part of this unit that we came off from factory. So we're going to do that now. Okay, so this you can actually spin off like we did. You don't need to actually, it's not under compression like it is on a spring and coilover, some of those videos you see on YouTube. But we do need to pull this off, and basically you just pull it like that. This is the factory bump stop. The bump stops are built in to the coilover itself. Let me show you here. Actually, as you can see right here, this is the built-in bump stop. So we're just gonna be putting this piece back on, just like this. And then we can put this back up. Now we're going to put this back up in place, and you notice this is a lot shorter than the other one. What you want to do is you want to take this apart and you want to put this one inbound this way. So the fat side in on that stud, and that'll help you. I'm going to drop this through this way. I'm going to do my bottom first. I'm going to put my top in place where it needs to go. So I'm going to put the bottom in, slide this thing in, and then I'm going to put this one, the second piece, back on this side. Get that in there, and then by lifting it and moving it around, you'll be able to get those both back in. Now that I got those in, I'm just going to put my 22 back in place so that that doesn't fall apart, and we'll go from there. And when we put some, let's get this spring back in. So now you want to just take this and bring this back up, check your spring position, make sure nothing's shifted. Okay, we're good there. And we're lining this up with the bolt to put our bolt through. And one thing I like to do sometimes is sometimes I will use a smaller bolt to actually put this in place, but as you can see, it's pretty movable right now. And that's why I want to leave the top of the shock apart as well. So I can actually get this, and I can position this, I need to take a little pry bar. And I need to bring this outbound just a little bit. What do I need to do it on? Okay, cool. Okay, so now I put that through, and you'll have to line it up. It's gonna be like a little bit cockeyed and stuff, and then you wanna just actually tighten this up, and we'll go through and tighten everything, and we'll put the last one, we'll put these 17s in once we get a little more pressure on it. So guys, what we're doing here is we're actually jacking up underneath that same point we did before, and we're bringing this to match up so we can get our bolts back in here. You don't have to take anything apart on the inside of the car in the back, which is nice. There's a lot of cars you have to pull a whole trunk apart just to get to these. So we're almost there. And we're actually compressing the spring and everything right now. This is your adjuster. You can hear this click. So this is how you adjust the dampening in the rear. But we're gonna wrap this up. We're gonna start dialing in the suspension, and we're gonna show you guys on the ground what this thing looks like. All right guys, so I just showed you where the damper adjustment is in the rear. What we did is we're gonna go through, we're gonna go over the front, and we're gonna show you how and why we're doing the front the way we are. But we went through, we double checked everything. We actually lowered this down and we adjusted things to where we think it's gonna be settling perfectly. So let's go over to the front and let's see what's going on over there and show you guys how to actually adjust the coilovers. All right guys, so if you notice, this has got 2 collars on it. Sometimes you've probably seen up to 3 on some coilover systems. This has a 4mm hex head right here that you need to loosen up to get this to spin. And by spinning this system up and down is actually how you adjust it. You want to set the preload on this. You want to loosen the 5mm, and you just want to spin this up so this spring is just tight. Just so like a half, like probably 2 spins up more, so it's just compressed just a little bit is where I would set this at. So we're just gonna dial this in just a little bit, but that's how the adjustments are set up. You get this pretty cool spanner wrench, and this, pops in right here. So let me show you guys how this works. And this is how you would actually lock it, and then you would come in with your Allen key and just double tighten it. And to loosen, you do the exact opposite. So we're gonna lower the front just a little bit. So we're gonna bring it up probably about 3 spins, which will probably be right about there. So I'm just gonna spin it 1 extra 1, and we're gonna rotate this. We're gonna put a little mark on it and give it a quick rotation. Let me get the gloves on real quick. You can actually mark this with a marker, or just pick one of these, like one of these marks here, and like know where you're actually rotating it. So clockwise is actually gonna bring this thing up. So I'm gonna bring this down, and so I can actually see the difference in my markings here too as well. So I gotta grab the whole thing and rotate it. So here's coming on 1 spin. You can see it got a little bit of spacing there. There's the 2nd spin. And here's the 3rd spin. So you can see how 3 spins actually brought it up almost about 7 to 8 millimeters there. So now I'm just gonna lock this back down, spin this down. I'm gonna grab my spanner wrench, tighten this up. I'm gonna take a note where this is. So I get my spanner key back in there. You can put this in here, this tool, and this will allow you to get in here and get more leverage when these things get tight, or you need to tighten it up a little bit. So let's get this on here. There we go. And then I'm going to take my 4mm. I'm just going to get this in here. I'm just going to get this nice and tight. There she is. And I'm going to double check the top one because we did mess with it. So I'm just going to kind of make sure that it's nice and tight as well. Yep, that's good. Okay, so let's get back up top. Everything's done underneath. Again, we double checked everything. Again, we removed the 17mm here, the 222mm. We dealt with the ABS wire on the back side here, as well as the brake line on the 14mm here. So everything's pretty straightforward. We only have the 1 bolt. So there's the 3 points here. We only have one of them in there, and we've actually slid this in just a little bit so we can get a little bit of camber. So let's go on up top and I'll show you how we can finish this install and get this thing on the ground and get driving it. One last thing, don't forget to put your cap on. This will create a blocker for all any dirt, dust, and debris. And if you ever want to come in and you have to adjust this later, or you need to do another suspension job, it's just gonna save you some grief later. All right guys, so as you remember, maybe in part 2 I talked about these. We did not have these in stock at the time, but we have plenty in stock now. This is a 6073 hub-centric ring, and what this does is it actually centers the wheel on here to take a lot of the stress off of the studs themselves. So as you can see, this is a perfect fit at the 60mm. If you look on the back of our wheel, it's a nice perfect fit there as well. So that's gonna take a lot of stress off the studs themselves. So this is the last and final step, guys. Let's get these center caps on. So what I did is I actually created it and put it perpendicular to the valve stem here on all 4 corners. I'm gonna come around and hit it with a little rubber mallet just to make sure it's in. So this is a protruded style or a raised style center cap. And because if you look before I put it on, the axle actually protrudes out a little bit past this wheel. On the Graham lights, it does not. The Graham lights is actually a little bit thicker. Obviously the raised wheel, the Volk wheel is a little thinner for weight savings. So it doesn't need a protruded one on the Graham's lights. Hold on, breath. All right guys, now that we have everything wrapped up downstairs on the lower portion, I want to talk a little bit about upstairs, and we're going to wrap this up together so we can get this out on the road and get some pictures. So the key thing you got to do here is you got to put these washers back in place, and that is to go between this and the cowl brace itself. If not, it'll actually rattle a little bit, but this was in their factory, so you want to do that. And then your nut for the strut itself is going to go on top of the cowl brace. Now what we did is, because we didn't want to cut into this, and many of you guys will not, we actually adjusted this in 2 lines in, and we're going to go to the alignment shop and see actually where it's set. And if we need to, we'll just pull it back off. It does not take that much time. So let's wrap this back up and let's get it back on the road. So again, guys, this is much easier with 2 people, but you can see they just went right back in place. All we gotta do is we gotta zip our 10 mils back in these spots here. We gotta put the wiper cowl back in, the motor, and we're gonna put the bolts for the wiper cowl here, and we gotta put the little rubber grommet, which is just a spacer. Plug this back in. We need to plug in our defrost, which is right here. We're good to go. I'm gonna put these on just to get them on here. So again, you guys want to be careful not to hit the window, you know, the bottom of this windshield here. So as I mentioned earlier, we already set our dampening in the middle. So we just went all the way down and then halfway back up after we fully checked out all the clicks and everything. This is the tool for the front, and we did it before we put this back on. And since we're going to be taking this back off, we're going to go drive the car, get some feels for it. For us, it's no big deal. We're just gonna take this off and we'll do some adjustments and we'll put it back on, drive the car. Some of you guys are gonna wanna probably put these in, and you will be able to, you have to modify this so you can get through here. It's a little tall, but that's what we did. So I just wanted to kind of explain that to you guys and why, you know, when you get the kit, you're gonna see these in there and what to actually do with it. So you can, I'm gonna say it again, you can take this and modify this like some people have. You can actually just do a hole through this area here and then reach in and do your adjustments. But we want to dial it in. We're going to pull this back off when we do the alignment, and then we'll dial our stuff in from there. So guys, we got this reconnected. We got the wiper motor put back in, plugged in. We got the 10 mil here, 10 mil on the other side. We got the rubber grommet in the back, all the 10s along the back. Now we need to put the cowl on and the wipers to wrap this up. So one of the secrets, guys, is I put that on where it was. You can usually see the marks, and I lift and take all the tension off and drop it in place. And once that bolt goes in, it's good. All right guys, so we're wrapping up. Just don't forget to torque these. These are 95 foot-pounds on your lug nuts. This is what comes with the kit. This is the date it was built, who it was built by, the model, inspection, and all that good information. What I would do is I would actually recommend you guys measuring all 4 corners and recording that information here. And then after the car settles, you can do it here. Some people actually do it before the car settles just to actually see how much the car will settle with the springs and all. And then it comes with some cool stickers, die cut sticker, as well as a vinyl sticker that you can put on the car. So let's get rolling on this thing. Thanks a lot for watching, and please subscribe to the video for any future content. Leave any comments down below. I hope you guys really like the install video on the Fortune Auto 500 coilovers, as well as the Volk TE37 Saga S Plus wheels. I think we got the fitment straight on point. Tell us what you guys think below. Would you guys do your setup exactly like this? And also don't forget, in video number 2, we had a lot of secret specials on some wheels that you guys might want to check out. Thanks a lot, guys.